Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Seek with me. Seek with me. Peace, shalom. Come explore your royal roots from the Bible with animated stories about our righteous forefathers and mothers. Bible stories for all to help you understand the scriptures. We're always on the search for wisdom. Yeah. Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Seek with me. Seek with me. Yasharala. Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Seek with me. Seek with me. Yeah.
At that time, the Lord appeared unto Jacob, saying, Arise, go to Bethel, and remain there, and make there an altar to the Lord who appeareth unto thee, who delivered thee and thy sons from affliction. And Jacob rose up with his sons, and all belonging to him, and they went and came to Bethel according to the word of the Lord. And Jacob was 99 years old when he went up to Bethel. And Jacob and his sons and all the people that were with him remained in Bethel in Luz. And he there built an altar to the Lord who appeared unto him. And Jacob and his sons remained in Bethel 6 months. At that time died Deborah, the daughter of Uz, the nurse of Rebekah, who had been with Jacob. And Jacob buried her beneath Bethel under an oak that was there. And Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the mother of Jacob, also died at that time in Hebron. The same is Kiriath Arba, and she was buried in the cave of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought from the children of Heth. And the life of Rebekah was 133 years, and she died. And when Jacob heard that his mother Rebekah was dead, he wept bitterly for his mother, and made a great mourning for her, and for Deborah her nurse beneath the oak. And he called the name of that place Alan Bakath. And the band Assyrian died in those days, for God smote him because he transgressed the covenant that existed between him and Jacob. And Jacob was 100 years old when the Lord appeared unto him, and blessed him, and called his name Israel. And Rachel the wife of Jacob conceived in those days. And at that time Jacob and all belonging to him journeyed from Bethel to go to his father's house, to Hebron. And whilst they were going on the road, and there was yet but a little way to come to Ephrath, Rachel bare a son, and she had hard labour, and she died. And Jacob buried her in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem, and he set a pillar upon her grave, which is there unto this day. And the days of Rachel were 45 years, and she died. And Jacob called the name of his son that was born to him, which Rachel bare unto him, Benjamin, for he was born to him in the land on the right hand. And Jacob and all his sons and all belonging to him journeyed and came to Mamre, which is Kiriath Arba, that is, in Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned. And Jacob with his sons and all belonging to him dwelt with his father in Hebron. And in the 105th year of the life of Jacob, that is the 9th year of Jacob's dwelling with his children in the land of Canaan, he came from Padan Aram. And in those days Jacob journeyed with his children from Hebron, and they went and returned to the city of Shechem, they and all belonging to them. And they dwelt there, for the children of Jacob obtained good and fat pasture land for their cattle in the city of Shechem. The city of Shechem having then been rebuilt, and there were in it about 300 men and women. And Jacob and his children, and all belonging to him, dwelt in the part of the field which Jacob had bought from Hamor, the father of Shechem, when he came from Padan Aram, before Simeon and Levi had smitten the city. And all those kings of the Canaanites and Amorites that surrounded the city of Shechem heard that the sons of Jacob had again come to Shechem, and dwelt there, and they said,
Shall the sons of Jacob the Hebrew again come to the city and dwell therein, after that they have smitten its inhabitants and driven them out? Shall they now return and also drive out those who are dwelling in the city, or slay them?
And all the kings of Canaan again assembled, and they came together to make war with Jacob and his sons. And Jashub king of Tapnach sent also to all his neighbouring kings, to Elam king of Gaash, and to Ihuri king of Shiloh, and to Paraphon king of Kazan, and to Suzi, king of Satan, and to Laban, king of Beth Korah, and to Shabur, king of Ophnama, saying,
Come up to me and assist me, and let us smite Jacob the Hebrew, and his sons, and all belonging to him. For they are again come to Shechem to possess it, and to slay its inhabitants as before.
And all these kings assembled together, and came with all their camps, a people exceedingly plentiful like the sand upon the seashore, and they were all opposite to Tapnach. And Jashub, king of Tapnach, went forth to them with all his army, and he encamped with them opposite to Tapnach without the city. And all these kings they divided into 7 divisions, being 7 camps against the sons of Jacob. And they sent a declaration to Jacob and his sons, saying,
Come ye all forth to us, that we may have an interview together in the plain, and revenge the cause of the men of Shechem, whom you slew in their city. And you will now again return to the city of Shechem, and dwell therein, and slay its inhabitants as before.
And the sons of Jacob heard this, and their anger was kindled exceedingly at the words of the kings of Canaan. And 10 of the sons of Jacob hastened and rose up, and each of them girt on his weapons of war. And there were 102 of their servants with them equipped in battle array. And all these men, the sons of Jacob with their servants, went toward these kings, and Jacob their father was with them. And they all stood upon the heap of Shechem. And Jacob prayed to the Lord for his sons, and he spread forth his hands to the Lord, and he said,
O God, thou art an almighty God. Thou art our Father. Thou didst form us, and we are the works of thine hands. I pray thee, deliver my sons through thy mercy from the hand of their enemies, who are this day coming to fight with them, and save them from their hand. For in thy hand is power and might to save the few from the many, and give unto thy sons, thy servants, strength of heart and might to fight with their enemies, to subdue them and make their enemies fall before them. And let not thy sons and their servants die through the hands of the children of Canaan. But if it seemeth good in thine eyes to take away the lives of my sons and their servants, take them in thy great mercy through the hands of thy ministers, that they may not perish this day by the hands of the kings of the Amorites.
And when Jacob ceased praying to the Lord, the earth shook from its place, and the sun darkened, and all these kings were terrified, and a great consternation seized them. And the Lord hearkened to the prayer of Jacob. And the Lord impressed the hearts of all the kings and their hosts with the terror and awe of the sons of Jacob. For the Lord caused them to hear the voice of chariots, and the voice of mighty horses from the sons of Jacob, and the voice of a great army accompanying them. And these kings were seized with great terror at the sons of Jacob. And whilst they were standing in their quarters, behold, the sons of Jacob advanced upon them with 112 men, with a great and tremendous shouting. And when the kings saw the sons of Jacob advancing toward them, they were still more panic-struck, and they were inclined to retreat from before the sons of Jacob as at first, and not to fight with them. But they did not retreat, saying,
It would be a disgrace to us, thus twice to retreat from before the Hebrews.
And the sons of Jacob came near and advanced against all these kings and their armies. And they saw, and behold, it was a very mighty people, numerous as the sand of the sea. And the sons of Jacob called unto the Lord and said,
Help us, O Lord, help us and answer us. for we trust thee, and let us not die by the hands of these uncircumcised men, who this day have come against us.
And the sons of Jacob girt on their weapons of war, and they took in their hands each man his shield and his javelin, and they approached to battle. And Judah, the son of Jacob, ran first before his brethren, and 10 of his servants with him, and he went toward these kings. And Jashab, king of Tapnach, also came forth first with his army before Judah. And Judah saw Jashab and his army coming toward him, and Judah's wrath was kindled, and his anger burned within him, and he approached a battle in which Judah ventured his life. And Jashab and all his army were advancing toward Judah, and he was riding upon a very strong and powerful horse. And Jashab was a very valiant man, and covered with iron and brass from head to foot. And whilst he was upon the horse, he shot arrows with both hands from before and behind, as was his manner in all his battles, and he never missed the place to which he aimed his arrow. And when Jashab came to fight with Judah, and was darting many arrows against Judah, the Lord bound the hand of Jashab, and all the arrows that he shot rebounded upon his own men. And Judah took up a large stone from the ground, and its weight was 60 shekels. And Judah ran toward Jashab, and with the stone struck him on his shield, that Jashab was stunned with the blow, and fell off from his horse to the ground. And the shield burst asunder out of the hand of Jashab, and through the force of the blow sprang to the distance of about 15 cubits, and the shield fell before the second camp. And the kings that came with Jashab saw at a distance the strength of Judah, the son of Jacob, and what he had done to Jashab, and they were terribly afraid of Judah. And they assembled near Jashab's camp, seeing his confusion. And Judah drew his sword and smote 42 men of the camp of Jashab. And the whole of Jashab's camp fled before Judah, and no man stood against him. And they left Jashab and fled from him. And Jashab was still prostrate upon the ground. And Jashab, seeing that all the men of his camp had fled from him, hastened and rose up with terror against Judah, and stood upon his legs opposite Judah. And Jashab had a single combat with Judah, placing shield toward shield. And Jashab's men all fled, for they were greatly afraid of Judah. And Jashab took his spear in his hand to strike Judah upon his head. But Judah had quickly placed his shield to his head against Jashab's spear, so that the shield of Judah received the blow from Jashab's spear, and the shield was split into two. And when Judah saw that his shield was split, he hastily drew his sword and smote Jashab at his ankles, and cut off his feet, that Jashab fell upon the ground, and the spear fell from his hand. And Judah hastily picked up Jashab's spear, with which he severed his head and cast it next to his feet. And when the sons of Jacob saw what Judah had done to Jashab, they all ran into the ranks of the other kings. And the sons of Jacob fought with the army of Jashab, and the armies of all the kings that were there. And the sons of Jacob caused 15,000 of their men to fall, and they smote them as if smiting at gourds, and the rest fled for their lives. And Judah was still standing by the body of Jashab, and stripped Jashab of his coat of mail. And Judah also took off the iron and brass that was about Jashab. And behold, 9 men of the captains of Jashab came along to fight against Judah. And Judah hastened and took up a stone from the ground, and with it smote one of them upon the head, and his skull was fractured. And the body also fell from the horse to the ground. And the 8 captains that remained, seeing the strength of Judah, were greatly afraid, and they fled. And Judah with his 10 men pursued them, and they overtook them and slew them. And the sons of Jacob were still smiting the armies of the kings, and they slew many of them. But those kings daringly kept their stand with their captains, and did not retreat from their places. And they exclaimed against those of their armies that fled from before the sons of Jacob. But none would listen to them, for they were afraid of their lives lest they should die. And all the sons of Jacob, after having smitten the armies of the kings, returned and came before Judah. And Judah was still slaying the 8 captains of Jashab, and stripping off their garments. And Levi saw Elon, king of Gaash, advancing toward him with his 14 captains to smite him, but Levi did not know it for certain. And Elon with his captains approached nearer, and Levi looked back and saw that battle was given him in the rear, And Levi ran with 12 of his servants, and they went and slew Elon and his captains with the edge of the sword. And Ahuri, king of Shiloh, came up to assist Elon, and he approached Jacob. When Jacob drew his bow that was in his hand, and with an arrow struck Ahuri, which caused his death. And when Ahuri, king of Shiloh, was dead, the 4 remaining kings fled from their station with the rest of the captains, and they endeavored to retreat, saying,
We have no more strength with the Hebrews after their having killed the 3 kings and their captains who were more powerful than we were.
And when the sons of Jacob saw that the remaining kings had removed from their station, they pursued them. And Jacob also came from the heap of Shechem, from the place where he was standing. And they went after the kings, and they approached them with their servants. And the kings and the captains with the rest of their armies, seeing that the sons of Jacob approached them, were afraid of their lives, and fled till they reached the city of Kazar. And the sons of Jacob pursued them to the gate of the city of Kazar. And they smote a great smiting amongst the kings and their armies, about 4,000 men. And whilst they were smiting the army of the kings, Jacob was occupied with his bow, confining himself to smiting the kings. And he slew them all. And he slew Paraphon, king of Kazar, at the gate of the city of Kazar. And he afterwards smote Suzi, king of Sarton, and Laban, king of Bethkorin, and Shabir, king of Macnamah. And he slew them all with arrows, and an arrow to each of them, and they died. And the sons of Jacob, seeing that all the kings were dead, and that they were broken up and retreating, continued to carry on the battle with the armies of the kings opposite the gate of Kazar. And they still smote about 400 of their men. And 3 men of the servants of Jacob fell in that battle. And when Judah saw that 3 of his servants had died, it grieved him greatly, and his anger burned within him against the Amorites. And all the men that remained of the armies of the kings were greatly afraid of their lives, and they ran and broke the gate of the walls of the city of Kazar, and they all entered the city for safety. And they concealed themselves in the midst of the city of Kazar, for the city of Kazar was very large and extensive. And when all these armies had entered the city, the sons of Jacob ran after them to the city, and 4 mighty men, experienced in battle, went forth from the city and stood against the entrance of the city, with drawn swords and spears in their hands. And they placed themselves opposite the sons of Jacob, and would not suffer them to enter the city. And Naphtali ran and came between them, and with his sword smote 2 of them, and cut off their heads at one stroke. And he turned to the other 2, and behold, they had fled. And he pursued them, overtook them, smote them, and slew them. And the sons of Jacob came to the city and saw, and behold, there was another wall to the city, and they sought for the gate of the wall and could not find it. And Judah sprung upon the top of the wall, and Simeon and Levi followed him, and they all 3 descended from the wall into the city. And Simeon and Levi slew all the men who ran for safety into the city, and also the inhabitants of the city with their wives and little ones, they slew with the edge of the sword. And the cries of the city ascended up to heaven. And Dan and Naphtali sprang upon the wall to see what caused the noise of lamentation, for the sons of Jacob felt anxious about their brothers. And they heard the inhabitants of the city speaking with weeping and supplication, saying,
Take all that we possess in the city and go away. Only do not put us to death.
And when Judah, Simeon, and Levi had ceased smiting the inhabitants of the city, they ascended the wall and called to Dan and Naphtali, who were upon the wall, and to the rest of their brothers. And Simeon and Levi informed them of the entrance into the city, and all the sons of Jacob came to fetch the spoil. And the sons of Jacob took the spoil of the city of Kazar, the flocks and herds, and the property, and they took all that could be captured, and went away that day from the city.